Welcome back to the continuation of the August 16, 2023 meeting of the City Council Transportation Committee. I will make a motion to reconvene as we come out of recess. I don't have a gavel, though. Yeah. Motion to reconvene as we come out of recess. Second by Lewis. Please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The motion to reconvene passes.
All right, we have one remaining item on today's committee agenda, and that's presentations and reports. Today we have a report from the Department of Aviation. Mr. Bayadari, the floor is yours. I'll remind you, this is a thick deck, which will challenge my 15-minute presentation request. So obviously we'll have Q&A as long as necessary, but I would urge you to move quickly through the superfluous slides and focus on the important slides.
Good morning, Councilmember. Good morning, Mr. Chair. B.B. Udari, Aviation General Manager. And sir, you know I will just zip through these slides, right? So let's get started. Our vision and mission, this reflects the efficiency and service that we delivered day in and day out to our constituent over there. Our core value is, this is our daily credo. This is what we live by. I just want to spend 30 seconds on this slide again to emphasize that the airport is owned and operated by the City of Atlanta, and everything we do requires City Council approval, and my reporting is directly to the CEO and to the mayor. So we have a lot of checks and balance of how this airport is governed. Our strategic plan sits on 3 pillars, that is of people, purpose, and performance, and this is where we laid out our objective and our performance in what we will do for the next 3 to 5 years. This is how the organization is structured, and this is a redesign that I did in the last 18 months that is now copied by a lot of my peers in the industry. Airport, especially Atlanta Airport, being the busiest and world's most efficient, is a very, very complex enterprise. Each pillar, each of these operational pillars is managed by an airport deputy general manager with a very extensive portfolio. If you have questions on these respective portfolio, I'll be happy to discuss it in more detail with you. Let's talk about our vacancy. Last time I reported, we were at 24%. Now we're at 21%. We are making headways, but we continue to lose folks because of a number of reasons, such as compensation and stuff to other enterprises out there. But we're making good progress in filling out our vacancies. And there's 191 vacancies are not concentrated in one specific area, except for our electrician, plumbers. The rest of it is scattered throughout the organization, onesies and twosies across the organization. So the impact of the overall operations or to the overall organization is very minimal. Very happy that we had a very, very successful year in our summer internship program. I just love the enthusiasm and the energy of this cadre of youth that we had for the last 6 to 8 weeks at the airport, followed by our college intern, some of the most brilliant minds that worked for us in an 8-week internship program at the airport, came up with a lot of good ideas to us that we're exploring in more depth. A lot of community engagement as we have committed to that we will get involved in the community for the singular purpose of helping the communities understand that economic opportunities are available based on what the airport is doing. So we're spending a lot of time to share information, and some of you council members are deeply involved with us. Let's talk a little bit about our metrics. First 6 months of the year, we moved 50.3 million passengers through our system. Many airports in the nation, the large hub airport I'm referring to, doesn't do this much operation in a year. We did it in 6 months. Last year, we did 45 million, same 6 months period. Everything is trending in the right direction except for one area, and that is firearms. We're trending in the wrong area. We're seeing more and more firearms being intercepted at our checkpoint. It's not a good thing for us, but thanks to the work of our law enforcement and our Transportation Security Administration, they're doing an excellent job in intercepting these weapons. The last time I briefed this body, you all know that my concentration is international air service development. Last quarter, we had the good fortune of having Ethiopian Airlines start there at four weekly flights to Atlanta. That flight is growing steadily, and we think it will be a very, very successful flight. Our strategy right now, and I have said this before, our focus is in two major regions that is underserved from Atlanta, and that is the Asian continent and also Africa. And so we have several dialogues going on with African nations, an airline that is serving the African continent, and also the Asian continent. More to come at a later date. Let's talk about our financial performance. So the combination of higher non-aeronautical revenue in the areas of parking, concession, and so on resulted in a 5% variance, along with sound stewardship in our expenditure. So financially, we are in a very, very strong position. One of the driving factor actually for our expense variance was savings in our vacancies, but we're using some of that savings in overtime expenditure so that we could cover and take care of the airport. Our DBE performance continued to be, I would say, probably the best in the industry across the nation. We're at 33% DBE performance in our overall invoice paid to small, female, and minority business since we started our capital program. This is only reflective of our capital program. $815 million paid to our DBE partner out there. This slide shows our capital program. Right now, we have $1.9 billion plus of construction projects underway. We have another $750 million that we will NTP here in the next few months. In the next 18 months, when it's all said and done, we will have over $5.2 billion construction project in different phases, taking us all the way out to 2024. Some of it will be closing, financial closeout and final closeout. Some of it will get started, and some of it will be completing in the next year or 12 months, 18 months. A quick few pictures of construction projects that are underway. We talked a lot about the plane train extension. This was earth. We dig a hole under the earth, and this is what it looked like. This is the extension of the plane train tunnel and tracks, and this is the progress we're making. Main security checkpoint, that those of you that are traveling frequently to the airport, you see construction ongoing at our main domestic checkpoint. We are modernizing it with updated equipment similar to our south checkpoint to increase the throughput of our growing traveling footprint. Lower North checkpoint, we built 3 lanes out there to augment us while we close 3 to 4 lanes at the main security checkpoint. We're also building a 4th lane down there, which will be complete in the next 2 weeks. So we'll have 4 dedicated lanes out there to augment the rest of the domestic checkpoint on the upper levels, Main, South, and North. This is a 6 North ramp that we'll be building. We'll do some restriping, and we'll build additional 3 additional gates out there to support our Concourse D widening construction project when that project gets started. Many of you have gone through the T center point as you go downstairs and saw a lot of construction. We're about to finish this. This will be finished actually in October, and we'll be opening this year. So it gives us more vertical circulation capacity, escalator and elevator, and we are building some additional space for other operational functions. Here's what one of the escalator looked like in its construction phase at T Midpoint. It's massive. It's a massive job undertaken by our construction team out there. Of course, we spoke extensively about Concourse D widening. It's a $1.4 billion total project with the enabling work. We are going to widen this concourse from 60 feet to 99 feet. This is going to be, as most of our stakeholders have told us, this is going to be the most modern and best looking concourse to fly in and out of. So if you're booking your ticket when we finish this, try to fly out of Concourse D. And so today, the aviation department over the last 2 decades has been spread out all over campus. And we put primary focus on building the airport for the future, and there was a lack of focus on taking care of our employees. And so over the last 12 months, I got my team together and we start putting focus on how do we better take care of the employees. We're going to build a centralized, what we call aviation complex, airport administration complex, actually, where we're going to house all of our employees and all supporting functions such as badging and so on and so forth. This will also include space for our precinct, our police precinct, to give them a modernized and larger space for them to provide law enforcement function out there. So this is in schematic design right now, and I will provide additional information to this body as this progress through the months to come. Several recognition from outside bodies out there to validate what we are doing, and to send us a message that what we are doing is being recognized globally, not just nationally, but globally on some of our programs that we are doing here. And so here's a listing of all those recognition. So looking ahead, what do we have coming up looking ahead? We talked about August 10th. Last week, we had a very, very successful concession phase 3 outreach summit. When we started at 9 a.m., there were 536 participants that signed in. And later on during the morning, many more came in. So we estimate probably about 600 people showed up for phase 3 of our concession program. Lots of interest in the industry. These are not only local and regional, it's national participants out there. August 15th, that was yesterday. Once a year, we do a stand-down where we have a massive safety and risk assessment and exposition. It was very, very successful. We had a number of people that showed up for that. And a couple of other events coming up here. The triage center that we built to help to take care of our aging travelers. It will be fully staffed with a nurse practitioner, RNs, and LPNs to handle the increase in medical calls. For those of you that are looking for global entry, we have a blitz coming up here, so just get into the website, sign in, and you will get an appointment right off the bat to get your global entry. And then, of course, as I said last year, I expect all of you to be on the 5th runway for the Mayor 5K on October the 14th, along with family members are coming. I know Chairman Faruqi, you have a little one, you could bring her and we'll run with together in the stroller.
Are you running?
Sir, I will walk. So here is our concession update for phase 3 that we provided in our outreach summit on August 10th. As I said, it was a very, very successful summit. This is about 45,000 square feet. Will encompass 4 packages, and more to come on this as we develop and shape this out. Some of the things that we are tracking in the industry. So earlier this year, there were 2 FAA bills, or 2 congressional bills that was introduced to tack onto the FAA reauthorization that got myself and a lot of us very, very concerned. One was to eliminate DBE requirement, and the other, an ACDB, and the other was to defund DEI program. We made a concerted push in the industry to kill it before it hit the floor. Fortunately for us, both bills were killed, but a shot has been fired, and we have to be wide awake to keep track of this. We're also tracking the FAA and DHS funding mechanism, because we're asking for more resource for both TSA and CBP to help us manage this ever-growing demand for air transportation. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I think I did it in 12 and a half minutes. So thank you all very much.
Well done.
Subject to
Thank
your
you.
questions.
Thank you, General Manager Bayadari. We appreciate your time and the presentation. Questions from colleagues from the committee? Ms. Overstreet.
Thank you, Chair Faroki. I'm glad you have this slide, and I noticed it when going through the packet about the failed amendments that you just spoke about, because now, as a country, unfortunately, it seems like we are going back in years, and we're not going to let our airport go back in years, 50 years. As far as language is concerned, I'm glad that you all have your ears open to make sure that we are preserving some of some of our cornerstones, things that make Atlanta the role models for other airports, like our ACDBE program. Now they are trying to take away wording, not just in public sectors like we're speaking of today, but in schools and everywhere. Want to take away diversity, inclusion, equity, and those words do matter. And so I want to make sure that we stay as keen and listening as we are now, because the words may change, because they're taking away the words that we've all embraced over the last few years of, as far as affirmative action, taking it away, diversity, inclusion, equity, and it may be a different word in the next few years, but I just want to make sure that we stay keen to these types of things, because our programs that we have role modeled and led with, I want to make sure we hold on to those, because we're doing the right thing in the direction that we're in at the city of Atlanta, and we wouldn't be best in class if we weren't. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I realize the importance of opportunities for an underserved community. And as a result of that, myself, Michael Smith, my Deputy General Manager for Administration, we are creating an entire business unit, a diversity business unit, to even strengthen what we are doing more so that the rest of the industry, because they're calling upon me, and the industry wants to know what we are doing and how they could copy some of the stuff we're doing. So I want to push it out to the industry. I just don't want it to be a local thing. I want it to be a national stuff, because a lot of my peers out there are not doing what we are doing. And so this will also help us with creating a stronger diversity team to help us put the focus so that nothing falls through the crack, as you mentioned.
Absolutely. So again, thank you. I yield.
Any other questions from the body? All right.
Mr. Chair, I just want to leave with one thought. And so as we look at this airport, and I just put my lens on for the next 10 years, what we are doing. In the next 10 years, based on what we're doing with our non-aeronautical program right now, concession, parking, etc., we are looking in the next 10 years, this airport grossing over $10 billion in revenue to manage the airport. In the next 5 years, we are overseeing a capital program of over $5.2 billion. In the next 10 years, the men and women of this airport will move over a billion passenger through our system. Just one airport. In the next 10 years, the men and women will oversee the landing of and takeoff of over 8 million aircrafts. 8 million aircraft. So when you talk about the management of this airport, I just briefly want to recognize my general manager, deputy general managers, who, as you saw, their portfolio very extensive. Could you all please stand so the city council member can recognize you all? These are the people. These are the people, and we put up with a lot, but we are not going to let background noise distract us and deter us from our mission, because our mission is too important for the economic vitality of Atlanta and the entire region and the global air transportation system. And I will close with this. This airport is responsible for the employment of over 400,000 people around the region here annually, and over 66 billion, as in billion-dollar economic impact. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Amos.
Just very quickly, and I'll be more than happy to talk to my colleague, Ms. Overstreet, because this question may even go into procurement, not so much as the airport. I would like to start seeing matrix around growth. You know, our airport and the city was in the business of growing minorities from subs to primes. And I'm hearing and getting from people that we may no longer be in that business. It's definitely a difference between quality and quantity, sustainability and growth. And I definitely like for us to be where we were. As you talk about going backwards, we have always been on the forefront of growing minorities and sub businesses into primes. So just wanted to say that if we could, we'll talk later, see if there's and that's not only over here at the airport, but across the city, period. Where do we begin to see the growth? Just not the increase of participation, but the growth of those actually participating. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
And just to piggyback off that, the reason we had 600 people show up is because of the reputation of Atlanta Airport growing people into primes. I know that the prime JV model that we have is that the primes are supposed to take our JVs with them out of state to other airports and other places. I would like to see how is that happening. And I know we've always had these, and this is probably going to speak to my youth a little bit on this portion. I know we've always had the JV prime model, but when do our JVs become the prime? Then they start bringing in JVs that are in this city. And so, like, how long do we need a prime from overseas to be the prime for the bonding purposes? How long do they need to be the prime? My goal is that our JVs here grow into the primes and they take folks under their wings, because and that way they can increase the growth that he said.
So thank you both for that question. And we have been having conversation with Mayor Dickens over the last 18 months on this year. His vision is actually how do we grow small business to become primes of their own, right? So there are a number of things that have to be done along with the user agency, aviation, transportation, DPW and stuff. The Chief Procurement Officer and the Office of Contract and Compliance, we are working together, we're working together to come up with strategies of how we could do this, because there's a number of things that we have to overcome, right? Is the willingness of a small business that wants to go to begin with. Number two, there are financial criteria that they must meet and so on and so forth. So there's a number of steps along the way that we have to work. And so more discussion to become on that.
And I say that saying that we're doing so good that it's time for us to look at other things. I think that the leadership team has done the things they were supposed to do. But now this number gets here, how long are we going to stay stagnant, right? Because the airport's running itself. A lot of this stuff is clockwork. I mean, with you all doing your portion, but a lot of this stuff is going to, with that airport, what Mayor Maynard Jackson did, what he implemented is going to go. How long do we want to be saying with 35% DBE? How long do we want to say that? Because the city of Atlanta is 50.
Yeah.
You know, how long do we want to say that? I mean, that's my goal.
So there is two differences in that, right? An EBO program, which is locally run and locally managed, and then there is a federal program, which is a DBE program, right? And as you understand that the federal program trumps a local program. So when we receive federal dollars, there are certain requirements that we have to meet. So we could have more discussion and more dialogue as we go along with this.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Jaideep?
Jaideep Majumdar, Chief Procurement Officer for City of Atlanta, and Mr. Amos as well as Mr. Lewis, you are absolutely right. The key to grow those suppliers is by creating a pipeline. What we're doing is fostering relationship with other smaller businesses. We're having industry days. We are incentivizing suppliers to become part of our supply base. And once we create the pipeline at the back end, the front end will move automatically. The problem is if we start moving the front end without having the back line or the pipeline, you'll always have the challenge of getting a JV in place. So we are working very diligently with our community, our supply base, to make sure we have a pipeline that is full all the time.
Thank you. Mr. Baydari, thank you to you and the aviation team for being here today. I'm excited the concessions RFPs are kicking off. I think that's probably an area where we're starting to feel a bit average when you look around what other airports are doing and around the world. So excited to see this next phase of concessions as we go through this RFP process. We'll be eager to support you in that process, both for DBE purposes, but also just to make sure we're getting new concepts in our airport. So thank you for your leadership, and we'll see you probably in a couple weeks. So,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Council Member.
thank you. Any closing remarks from the body? Barring none, we are adjourned. Thank you all.